Hey everyone, I'm Mike Settele, and in this very long video here, I'm going to take for the very first time SAT practice test number 8 in the College Board's Bluebook app. Remember, that is the only place you should take practice tests. Those are questions that we can trust. These are from the College Board, the same people who make the SAT, and we're getting them in the exact same format as the real SAT. So I know there's a link here for printing out the practice tests as PDFs. Never use that link. Those are not the same kind of tests. You don't want to do that. So a couple of things before we begin here. Number one is you should not watch this video unless you have also taken SAT practice test number 8. I don't want to spoil those questions for you, so you should make sure you take that test on your own as a full practice test under time conditions and really see what your score is before you let me walk you through it. So in this video, I haven't seen these questions yet with a little asterisk. So this gets to the second thing I want to talk about. Practice test 8 and then also 9 and 10 were pieced together from earlier practice tests that were deleted. You might see in Bluebook that some numbers are missing. Where are 1, 2, and 3? Well, they're kind of right here in 8, 9, and 10. Now, I do not know yet how much of practice tests 1, 2, and 3 have been taken apart and repurposed into practice tests 8, 9, and 10. I'm going to basically find that out as I take this. However, that might mean that I've seen some of these questions before and kind of have a little bit of a preview of the answer. So I will try to let you know if I'm sensing a question that I'm familiar with, but I really don't know. I wanted to keep myself completely unaware of what I was about to take so that if it's a minimal amount of repeating questions, then I can get a reliable score. Now, for most of you, it doesn't matter that these tests are repeating older questions because you never saw the older tests. So it doesn't matter. But if you have, you will learn along with me, I guess, how much repetition there is. The other thing here, which kind of maybe matters a little bit, is this is the second practice test I've taken today. I took a full SAT this morning, and now I'm doing a second one. And I'm doing that on purpose. One, I just want to get these videos made for you guys, but also because I kind of want to show what it's like to take an SAT in terms of brain fog and mental energy. I'm a pro, but I have a feeling this test is going to be harder than the first one for me just because I'm going to be mentally tired. So I'll try to talk about that as I go through. But it is something that I think people underestimate when they take an SAT is how much mental energy it takes. And you really need to be well rested, fully focused. And that's why you got to make sure when you take a real SAT, you're going to bed early the night before. And if you really want to make sure your practice tests are done the right way, you should also be taking them when you are well rested and focused. If you're squeezing in a practice test after school one day, you're not going to be doing your best. And so hopefully through my suffering here, you can kind of learn that lesson. So I think that's it. Let's get to it. Let's do practice test 8 here. So we're going to let this load. I've got my scratch paper ready. We're going to do the reading section 1 first, and we'll see how it goes. Again, I don't know if I've seen these questions before. So let's go to grammar first, as always, is what I want to do. So it's around question 15. And here we go. So looking at this, doesn't look familiar, but I can tell it's about verbs. So we have has as singular, double as a singular, but it's probably not singulars and plurals because we have 2 verb tenses that are not really singular or plural. So it's probably about the past, present, future. When does it take place? So formed in 1967 to foster political and economic stability within the Asia-Pacific region, the Association of Southeast Asian Nations was originally made up of 5 members, Thailand, the Philippines, Singapore, Malaysia, and Indonesia. By the end of the 1990s, the organization had doubled its initial membership. Right, because it's in the past. So we're in the past, we're talking about the past. This is, here, let's get these up. This is the future. This is the present. And has doubled is just, that would be like, if we said since 1967, it has doubled its initial membership, but we're still talking about the past. By the end of the 1990s, it's a moment in the past, so had is much better. Let's move on. Okay, so this is it, they, this, some. This is a singular, plural. These choices look familiar, so I feel like I've seen this question. In 1930, Japanese-American artist, whatever, depicted the natural beauty of Yosemite National Park in 2 memorable woodcuts, blah, blah, blah. In 2019, blank exhibited alongside 150 of Obata's other works. So they were, because it's two woodcuts. Yeah, 2 woodcuts. They were. Okay. Yeah, I feel like I've seen that question. Okay, so this is a positives, so it's probably going to be this one, just based on how the positive rule works, but let's double check. Unfortunately, as researchers Roberto Scandone and Christopher Kilburn attest, archaeological excavations have disrupted ash deposits at the site. So yes, this is a positive. When we have the definition before the term, we usually don't use commas. So the term is the names of the people. The definition is that they are researchers. So that comes first. Okay, first things first is we need to know if we have two sentences. So we're going to look at B and D first, and we're going to ignore the word however here. This is the connector placement rule. And I know that I'm the Scott Heron. This is a copy. So far, I think we've got a couple copies. I've seen this name before. Okay. Scott Heron himself resisted the Godfather nickname. That's a sentence. Feeling that it didn't encapsulate his devotion to the broader African-American blues music tradition as well as bluesologist, the moniker he preferred. Ooh, okay, that's not a sentence. Himself resisted the Godfather nickname. Feeling that it didn't encapsulate his devotion to the broader African-American blues music tradition as well as bluesologist. So none of these are sentences here. So this ing is not a sentence. And then here, the moniker he preferred is descriptive. So these are not sentences. So it shouldn't be this, and it shouldn't be this. It's probably this, because the however is still going to insert itself into the sentence. It's like an interruption. Scott Heron himself resisted the Godfather nickname, however, feeling that it didn't encapsulate his devotion to the broader African-American. Okay, so here's what it's saying. Journalists have dubbed Gil Scott Heron the Godfather of Rap, a title that has appeared in hundreds of articles about him since the 1990s. However, Scott Heron himself resisted the Godfather nickname, feeling that it didn't encapsulate his devotion to the broader African-American blues music tradition. Yeah, so annoying, but connector placement, predictable rule. Okay, we got to check here to see if there's a sentence before. The number of jams available for tasting varied. That's a sentence. Some shoppers had 24 different options, others only 6. Now that's also a sentence. And so we can't use a comma. And the word while is going to make it not a sentence, because then it's going to change the way this works. While some shoppers had 24 different options, others only 6. Yeah, these are not going to work. So we need the colon because it's the only thing that's going to allow us to join two sentences. Yeah, I've seen this question too. There's a lot of duplicates so far, unless my memory is just very fuzzy. Okay, this may be new. I don't recognize this. So just commas. Let's see what we got. Gitlin's use of the term referenced TV studios' practice of repackaging successful narrative formulas as new content in that era shows that varied only slightly from other shows still attracted sizable audiences. Oh, good. I didn't see this before, but yeah, I'm like, that's 2 sentences. So we have a semicolon, so that's going to be 2 sentences. Gitlin's use of the term referenced TV studios' practice of repackaging successful narrative formulas as new content. That is a sentence. In that era, even shows that varied only slightly from other shows still attracted sizable audiences. That's also a sentence. That is the only choice that allows us to join 2 sentences. Okay, here we go. So these are transitions. We got to read everything now. Although those who migrated to California in 1849 dreamed of finding gold nuggets in stream beds, the state's richest deposits were buried deeply in rock beyond the reach of individual prospectors. By 1852, many had given up their fortune-hunting dreams and gone to work for one of the large companies capable of managing California's complex mining operations. So the deposits were buried deep, beyond the reach of individual prospectors. So by 1852, many had given up their fortune-hunting dreams and gone to work for one of the large companies. Yes. So furthermore means and. It's not an and. Still means but. It's not next because there's no time passing. Well, I guess there is 1849, but it's not like first this happened, then this happened. It's a so. Consequently means so, right? The state's richest deposits were buried deeply in rock. So by 1852, they had to give up their fortune-hunting dreams. I've seen this question too. This is also a repeat. Not good. There's so much repetition here. Okay. So in 1974, Mexican chemist Mario Molina and U.S. chemist F. Sherwood Rowland discovered that chemicals called CFCs were harmful to the ozone layer. Their research was extremely influential in the fight against CFCs. It laid the foundation for a 1987 treaty that phased out the use of CFCs across the globe. I want to say something like, for example, that's what specifically means. It's not earlier because we're not going backward in time. But and regardless, or however and regardless both mean but, so that's no good. And it's not a contrast anyway. It's influential, and so we're not contrasting the influence, because we're saying how influential it is. It laid the foundation. So, for example, which is what specifically means, is perfect. Oof, really? 3 bullet points? That's unusual. All right, so the student wants to emphasize the order in which Alaska and Hawaii became states. Alaska, the 49th state, became a state several months before Hawaii, the 50th state. Okay, that's the order. On August 21st, 1959, the new 50-star flag was unveiled. Nothing but the order. 49th and 50th states to join the U.S. did so in the same year. No, not in order. The same day that Hawaii became a U.S. state, a new U.S. flag was unveiled. Okay, nope. So that's the only one that does the order. Easy. The student wants to contrast the emissivity of reflective metal fibers with that of silicon carbide fibers. Okay, so we want to contrast, so we want a difference. The ability of reflective metal fibers and silicon carbide fibers to emit heat was determined by an analysis of each material's emissivity, but that's not contrasting them. The amount of heat a material absorbs is equal to the amount it emits. Doesn't contrast. Though the reflective metal fibers and silicon carbide fibers had different rates of emissivity, Abebe planned to use both in a garment. Well, saying they're different, but how are they different? I don't know. I feel like I need more. Whereas the reflective metal fibers had an emissivity of just 0.02, the silicon carbide fibers absorbed large amounts of heat, resulting in an emissivity of 0.74. Yeah, that's a clear contrast, and it's the right numbers, so that's good. So you want to emphasize the role a misconception played in the naming of a place. I've seen this question too. Okay, I don't remember the answers, guys. This just goes to show, it's not the end of the world if you have to take a practice test again a second time. I teach these questions for a living. I've seen these questions many, many times, but the fact is I don't remember the answer. I still have to solve it from square one. So you can go back to old SAT questions, really what it comes down to. Okay, the role of misconception played. Okay. The novel, whatever, featured a fictional island known. Okay, so there's no misconception. To the south of the U.S. state of California lies Baja California, originally called California after a fictional place. Okay, but there's no misconception. In the 16th century, Spanish explorers learned of a peninsula off the west coast of Mexico and called it California. No misconception. Thinking it was an island, that's a misconception. Spanish explorers called a peninsula California after an island in a popular novel. So there you go. All right, the misconception is they thought it was an island, but it's actually a peninsula. So you gotta know what misconception means, I guess, but there you go. No need to go to the bullet points here. The student wants to emphasize the aim of the research study. So what is its purpose? As it orbited the moon, the Kaguya satellite collected data that was later analyzed by cosmochemist Kentaro Terada. Okay, why? Why was it orbiting the moon? What is the aim? Before 2008, Kentaro Terada wondered if the moon was receiving some of its oxygen from Earth. So presumably the aim was to answer that question. I mean, I wish they just said that. Cosmochemist Kentaro Terada set out to determine whether some of the moon's oxygen was coming from Earth. Okay, I like that better. Kentaro Terada's study determined that Earth is sending a small amount of oxygen to the moon. Well, that's not really the aim, that's the finding, right? So he set out to determine whether some of the moon's oxygen was coming from Earth. I might check that just to make sure. Wondered if some of the unaccounted for oxygen could be coming from Earth. Some of the moon's oxygen, yeah. There you go, it's good enough. All right, now we go back to the beginning. We always do the grammar first. That way we lock in some easy points and we have a good pacing strategy. And that took me, let's see, we have 32 minutes, so about 10 minutes. It's a little slow. I'm talking a little bit too much, I think. But yeah, you want to get that done in like 10 minutes. As Mexico's first president from an indigenous community, Benito, I know this name, this is also from a question I've seen before, became one of the most blank figures in his country's history. Among the many significant accomplishments, he consolidated authority. So I need a word that means significant, important. There you go, repetition. Artist Marilyn Dingle's intricate coiled baskets are blank sweetgrass and palmetto palm. Following a gullah technique that originated in West Africa, Dingle skillfully winds a thin palm. That seems important. Ooh. Skillfully winds a thin palm frond around a bunch of sweetgrass with the help of a sewing bone to create the basket's signature look that no factory can reproduce. Are blank. Are skillfully made from is something kind of want to say. Are indicated by sweetgrass? No. Are handmade? Yeah, because no factory can reproduce it. Are represented by? No. Collected with? No. Yeah, I didn't think this was important, but that's what it's doing. I think I've seen that question too. The Mule Bone, a 1930 play by Zora Neale Hurston and Langston Hughes, is perhaps the best known of the few examples of blank in literature. Okay, so I don't know what that blank is. Let's let this next sentence fill it in. Most writers prefer working alone. And given that working together cost Hurston and Hughes their friendship, it is not hard to see why. It's one of the best, a few examples of something like togetherness or collaboration. Yeah, perfect. Yeah, collaboration, working together. Okay. Diego Velázquez was the leading artist in the court of King Philip IV of Spain during the 17th century, but his influence was hardly blank. Realist and Impressionist painters around the world employed his techniques and echoed elements of his style. So his influence was hardly, so what we want to say is he was influential, right? His influence was good, but hardly is negating that. So that's saying it's hardly bad. So we want some sort of negative word for that blank. So confined to, okay. Right, so he's a leading artist in Spain, but his influence was hardly confined, restricted to Spain, and then people around the world used his techniques. Yeah. The repressed is negative too, but confined makes more sense with everything else. But derived from, recognized in, those are just kind of neutral. Okay. Researchers and conservationists stress that biodiversity loss due to invasive species is blank. For example, people can take simple steps such as washing their footwear after travel to avoid introducing potentially invasive organisms into new environments. This seems familiar too. Stress that biodiversity loss is preventable. I can just see it out of the corner of my eye because they can do these steps to avoid it. Yeah. Okay. I mean, all of these make sense. Like, it is concerning, but if the example is of people fixing it, then we need to stick with them fixing it. Yeah. Okay. Overall structure. Companies are providing consumers with more opportunities to purchase customized products than ever before. Whether buying customized sneakers, jewelry, or clothing, consumers can participate in the design of products to meet their specific needs and tastes. So specific. In turn, companies profit too. Studies have shown that consumers are willing to pay more and wait longer for a customized product. Still, it can be difficult for companies to offer customization while keeping costs low, as the standard methods of mass production may not be able to accommodate making a unique product each time. So if I did a little scratch paper here, this is number 6. So custom good, and then they're talking about problems, right? So some sort of negative. So overall structure is some sort of positive to negative. It discusses several recent innovations in product manufacturing, then suggests some potential applications of these innovations. Well, what are the recent innovations? That they can do customization. That's maybe one recent innovation. So, and applications is, we don't get into the problem there. Describes what company, recent success with new products, and then explains multiple factors that may have contributed to that success. Again, this is all positive. I want some negative in here. It introduces a trend in consumer products and then explains how the trend both benefits and poses a challenge to companies. Yeah, what is the trend? The trend is customization. It presents 2 contrasting product marketing techniques and then provides examples of one of those techniques. No, they're not marketing. Well, I guess their marketing is only one thing, that they're offering customization. And so there's no contrasting thing to that. So yeah, only this makes sense. Oh, I've seen this question before too. This poem. Okay. What's the main purpose? There shall be new roads wending, a new beating of the drum. Men's eyes shall have fresh seeing, gray lives reprise their span, but under the new sun's being, completing what night began, there'll be the same backs bending, the same sad feet shall drum when this night finds its ending, and day shall have come. So, look at, there's main ideas, repeated ideas, right? New, fresh, reprise means to do something again, new, right? Same. Now it gets kind of sad here, right? Sad feet. Okay. To consider how the repetitiveness inherent in human life can be both rewarding and challenging. Fresh seeing seems positive. Challenging, sad feet shall drum. Maybe it's got a mix of positive and negative, right? So my dumb summary here is that I guess there's a bit of positive and negative. So A kind of hits that. Let's see what B says. To question whether activities completed at one time of day are more memorable than those of another. No, this is making a comparison that we're not making here. We're not ranking things. God. to refute the idea that joy is more commonly experienced emotion than sadness is no. Again, we're not making a comparison. So that doesn't work. Does demonstrate how the experiences of individuals relate to the experiences of their communities? What communities? It's not, again, this is making a comparison that's just not there. It's positive, negative. Keep it simple. I'm pretty sure that's the answer. I think I've seen that question before. All right, overall structure. Let's keep notes this time while we read. The north celestial pole, the fixed point around which stars in the northern hemisphere, including the sun, appear to rotate, is discernible only at night. Inspired by the navigational strategies of some insects and birds, researchers devised a method for locating the NCP in daytime using skylight polarization, which occurs as atmospheric particles scatter sunlight. So only night, but day with technique. Polarimetric camera captures images of polarization patterns which rotate as the sun's position in the sky changes. Temporal variances across images can then be used to determine an observer's latitude and bearing relative to the NCP. Okay. I guess it's a lot of science. Let's just see what they say here. It illustrates how most navigational tools utilize the NCP. That's very strong. Recounts how researchers discovered that certain animals are able. Well, how did they discover it? They just says that they did. It doesn't say how they did it. And then proposes that the discovery could be used to avoid problems in navigation associated. I mean, there are certain things about this that are right, but there's also a lot of words that scare me. B, it presents a celestial-based method of navigation. Enumerates the comparative benefits of an alternative method used by certain animals that are based on an unrelated natural occurrence. Well, it's not unrelated, is it? And then indicates how researchers assessed the relative accuracy of the two methods. No, they're not contrasting things. Relative accuracy is saying we're not contrasting things. It explains how the NCP is typically located, emphasizes a key difference between how humans and certain animals use the NCP for navigation, and then suggests an alternative way of using the NCP to improve existing. Yeah, okay. Key difference. The key difference being that animals do it during the day, right? Inspired by these strategies, right? We use it at night. Let's look at D. It notes an obstacle to observing an astronomical phenomenon, mentions a navigational ability of certain animals that inspired a solution to that obstacle, and then explains how researchers use an optical device to mimic that ability. Oh, this is a hard one. I can tell from the choices. They're just very similar. Let's go back to A for a sec. How most navigational tools utilize this. It's quantifying. No. It explains how the NCP is typically located. Well, it doesn't say that actually. How is the NCP typically located? No. It's discernible at night, but how do they locate it? So I don't think that's right. Emphasizes a key difference between how humans and certain animals use the NCP. It's not really a key difference. I mean, I'm kind of stretching that. And then suggests an alternative way of using the NCP to improve existing navigational instruments. Well, it's not an alternative. It's just a different thing, I guess. I don't know. And it's not improving them. Let's go with this one again. It notes an obstacle to observing an astronomical phenomenon. What is the obstacle? It's discernible only at night. It mentions a navigational ability of certain animals that inspired a solution to that obstacle. What is the ability? The ability is that they use daytime skylight polarization. And that was a thing that they were inspired by. And then explains how researchers use an optical device to mimic that ability. And then they use this camera to do it in some way. Yeah, tough, but I like D. That makes sense. That's a tough one. People can get that wrong. Main idea of the text. How we doing on time? And we got to pick up the pace. Culinary anthropologist, whatever, may be known for her decades of work in national public television and radio, but her book is likely her most influential project. The 1970 book, whose title refers to Smart Grosvenor's roots in the low country of South Carolina, was unusual for its time. It combined memoir, combined memoir, recipes, travel, challenged notions that about conventions of food and cooking. challenge things. Long admired by many, the book and its author have shaped contemporary approaches to writing about cuisine. So it's unusual and it challenged things. Smart, whatever is unconventional book, unconventional, unusual, is an important contribution of food writing. Seems right. Held many different positions? No. Groundbreaking is important. Didn't receive the praise it deserved. Does it say that? Long admired. No, it seems like it was admired. Smart was a talented chef whose work inspired many people to start. Yeah, true, but you got to mention the book. Okay, in this text, Prospero. Which point does Prospero most directly make about Miranda and her memories? Okay. Miranda has lived on an island with her father, Prospero, since she was 3 years old. Prospero has stated that Miranda likely does not remember anything other than her life on the island. Miranda and her memories. Miranda is far off and rather like a dream than an assurance that my remembrance warrants had I not 4 or 5 women once that tended me. Thou hadst said more, Miranda, but how is it that this lives in thy mind? What seest thou else in the dark backward in the abysm of time? If thou rememberest aught ere thou camest, how thou camest here thou mayst. What? See, Shakespeare's nuts. So how is it? So which point does Prospero most directly make about Miranda and her memories? He's just like confused, I guess. What seest thou else? If thou rememberest aught before you came here, how thou camest here thou mayst? I don't even know the saying. He's confused. He has a lot of questions. Miranda's reminiscences about her early childhood have a melancholy quality that betrays her discontented view of her current circumstances. It's very negative. This doesn't seem negative. Miranda's doubts about the accuracy of one recollection of a place other than the island are clouding her judgment and seem to be making her reluctant to explore her recollection of traveling to the island. I don't see reluctance. It seems very negative. Miranda's ability to summon details of an experience she had before arriving on the island suggests that she may also be able to summon details of her arrival on the island. Yeah, because how thou camest here, that sounds like that. Miranda's impression of a scene is vague because she's remembering a scenario she had daydreamed about as a child rather than a scenario that had occurred in reality. No, because he says, yes, he agrees with her, right? You had all these people. How do you remember this is what she's saying. Yeah, not so bad. Okay. Best illustrate the student's claim. Oh, I know this name too. These are people who I've seen these questions. In a research paper, Simon criticized some historians of modern African politics, claiming that they have evaluated Patrice Lumumba, the first prime minister of what is now the Democratic Republic of Congo, primarily as a symbol rather than in terms of his actions. So that's what we got to look at. So a symbol rather than his actions. Best illustrated the claim. Lumumba is a difficult figure to evaluate due to the starkly conflicting opinions he inspired during his life and continues to inspire today. No, it's not about that. The available information makes it clear that Lumumba's political beliefs and values were largely consistent. But who cares about what his consistency is? Lumumba's practical accomplishments can be passed over quickly. His actions. It is mainly as the personification of Congolese independence that he warrants scholarly attention. Right, but okay, yeah. Ooh, this is tricky. So this is a work by a historian, and the historian would say that he is a symbol rather than his actions. So the student is criticizing that, but we need a quote from an historian that is showing that he is a symbol rather than someone about his actions. Right, and here's a personification of independence. That's a symbol. Many questions remain about Lumumba's ultimate vision for independent Congo. Without new evidence coming to light, these questions are likely to remain unanswered. Honestly, only C has anything to do with symbolism. So it's kind of the only thing anyway. Okay, 4 questions, 6 minutes. Support. Research hypothesized a decline. Oh, see, this is a very famous question. I can't believe that the College Board is this freaking lazy to use all these questions again. For you, most of you, this does not matter, but for me, this is a big deal. A decline in the population of dusky sharks. So decline in sharks. Near the middle latitude, decline in the population of oysters. Dusky sharks do not typically consume eastern oysters, but do consume cow-nosed rays, which are the main predators of the oysters. So if you had fewer sharks, you'd have more rays and fewer oysters because the rays are eating the oysters, right? So it goes here to here and then here to here. Support, right? So declines in the regional abundance of dusky sharks' prey other than cow-nosed rays are associated with regional declines in dusky sharks. So I don't care about other rays or other prey. I just want to focus on this stuff. Eastern oyster abundance tends to be greater in areas with both dusky sharks and Cano's rays than in areas with only dusky sharks. Doesn't seem right. Consumption of eastern oysters by Cano's rays in the region substantially increased before the regional decline in dusky shark abundance began. Who cares about before? Time doesn't seem to matter here. Cano's rays have increased in regional abundance as dusky sharks have decreased. So, yeah, that's what I wrote here. Increased, right? So, yeah, because they eat that. Yeah. All right. 13. Completes the text. The musical Hadestown was produced off Broadway in New York in 2016. A revised version of the musical premiered on Broadway in 2019 in a larger production. In a review of the Broadway production, their theater, okay, larger. Enthusiastically praised musical storytelling. Praised. However, Green also explained that he had seen the earlier version of Hadestown in 2016 and found the storytelling to be very confusing. This suggests that in Green's view, the new one is better. Okay. So the review, I feel like it's going to say something like the new one is better. New is better. This suggests in Green's view, the 2016 version of Hadestown had fewer storytelling problems. No, this is saying the new one is worse. Hadestown should have had a larger production in 2019. Well, is the largeness what made it better? I don't think so. The 2019 version of Hades was less enjoyable. No, the new one is better. Hadestown improved greatly between two. Yeah. Yes. Done. Okay. All right. In some artifacts recovered from excavations of the settlement in Kulokat, I know that name too. This is also a question I've seen. In modern Ghana, date from 13th century CE, that may lay credence to claims that the settlement was founded before or around that time. There is other evidence, however, strongly supporting a 14th century founding date. If both the artifact dates and the 14th century founding date are correct, that would imply. So, 14th century. So, excavations date from the some artifacts. So artifacts equal 13th century, founded in the 14th. If they're both right, then the artifacts must be from somewhere else. Artifacts in the 14th century CE are more commonly recovered. No, they're not contrasting different kinds of artifacts. The artifacts originated elsewhere and eventually reached there from migration. Yep. Kulukata was founded by people from a different region than had previously been assumed. Well, they're not contrasting different people. Excavations at this place may have intermittently damaged. No, it's just that the artifacts are somewhere else. Okay. Last question. Yeah. Birds of many species ingest foods containing carotenoids, pigmented molecules that are converted into feather coloration. Coloration tends to be especially saturated in male birds' feathers. That seems important because because carotenoids also confer health benefits. I've seen this question too. The deeply saturated colors generally serve to communicate what is known as an honest signal of a bird's overall fitness to potential mates. However, ornithologists, whatever, and others have found that males in several other species of the tanager genus use microstructures in their feathers to manipulate light, creating the appearance of deeper saturation without the birds necessarily having to maintain a carotenoid-rich diet. So basically, normally, carotenoids equal health, but in this other one, and carotenoids equal the color, but in this one, the carotenoids do not equal the color. So maybe, I don't know, that honest signal thing sounds important. These findings suggest that individual male tanagers can engage in honest signaling without relying on carotenoid consumption. No, because we don't know if they're actually healthy or not. So we don't know if it's honest. Feather microstructures may be less effective than deeply saturated feather. No, because we're not contrasting and ranking the two things. This is a comparison. Scientists have yet to determine why tanagers have a preference for mates with colorable. It's just not about that. A male tanager's appearance may function as a dishonest signal of the individual's overall fitness, right? Because if the carotenoid doesn't mean the color, they're lying about themselves. Yeah. Yeah. This is a good question. I'm pretty sure I'm right about this. So even knowing the answers or having seen some of these questions before, it's crazy that I still needed to do them all, and I'm this close to running out of time. Even in the first reading module, I think this is something you just need to get used to. The first reading module, there's a lot of time that goes into reading these questions. So I'm going to pause here, and then it's going to jump me over to the hard module. So I'm going to reset the video, and then we'll do that, and it's going to be just as tight, but we'll see. Maybe I get some advantage from questions I've seen before. All right. Remember how I said that I have taken 2 SATs today? This is number 2. I'm feeling it. I'm feeling it. This is going to hurt, this hard module. I know it. I'll just let this run out. But yeah, ooh, boy, I can feel it in my head. So we'll see. I'm going to have to go really fast. It's going to be hard to do. But yeah, I can just feel my head is slow. It's like moving through syrup in my head, my thoughts. Oh my gosh. All right. Let's see if we can make it through this. The math will be fine. All right. So again, we're going to find the grammar. That's grammar. That's not. Okay. Is, has, these are singular. This is plural. Interest in whatever the mechanism by which cells sense and convert mechanical stimuli to biochemical signals is expanding because of innovative work by biomedical scientists, many of whom, like neuroscience and physics expert Elba Serrano, study this mechanism to better understand how the body's neurological. Yeah, good. Singular, singular, plural, singular. Yep, good. Okay, we got to check this first. We got a clear rule here with the colon. Researchers studying magnosensation have determined why some soil-dwelling roundworms in the southern hemisphere move in the opposite direction of Earth's magnetic field when searching for food. That is a sentence. So that checks out. In the northern hemisphere, the magnetic field points down into the ground, but in the southern hemisphere, it points up toward the surface and away from worms' food sources. That's a sentence too. Really, choice A is the only one that allows us to join 2 sentences here. So that's it. I've seen this question before too. All right. Here's another one where if we pass the test and we have 2 sentences, we kind of have to pick this. As cheese-making practices spread throughout Europe and Asia during and after the Neolithic, divergent strategies for preserving milk emerged. That's a sentence. Whereas rennet coagulated cheesemaking became key to milk preservation in Europe and Southwest Asia, acid heat coagulation methods became common among nomadic herding populations of the northeastern Eurasian steppe. I think that's 2 sentences too. I think that's got to be it. The divergent strategies from preserving milk emerged, and whereas, let me just think this through. This might be a trap. Divergent strategies for preserving milk emerged, and then we're explaining what are the divergent strategies. Whereas rennet coagulated cheesemaking became key to milk preservation. Actually, yeah, tough, but I'm pretty sure that's it. It's weird to have a colon joining 2 sentences twice in a row. Okay. This is about changing tenses somehow. These extensive changes, including the addition of hundreds of new poems, the removal of some existing ones, and the insertion of preparatory material, reflected the poet's evolving. Yeah, so there's a sentence here. These extensive changes reflected the poet's evolving literary perspective. So we need the comma because we need to separate that out. These extensive changes, including the addition of hundreds of new poems, the removal of some existing ones, and the insertion of prefatory material, that whole thing is an extra clause. Yeah, tough one too. I think I've seen this question though before. Okay. So this is odd. Punctuation. What's going on here? English poet and Shakespeare contemporary John Donne's works were much admired during his lifetime and in the decades that followed. Had, at the time of their enthusiastic discovery by the early, innocent. Oh my God, this is clearly like almost like a to and ing thing. English poet and Shakespeare contemporary John Donne's works, much admired during his lifetime and in the decades that followed, had been essentially gathering dust for the intervening 250 years. This is interesting. English poet and Shakespearean contemporary John Donne's works had been essentially gathering dust for the intervening 250 years. That's my sentence. Really sneaky. These are hard grammar. Plural, 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 or plural, singular, plural, plural. So it's probably this. Let's double check. Yeah, I've seen this question. Researchers studying the Terracotta Army, the thousands of life-size statues of warriors found interred near the tomb of Emperor Qin Shi Huang of China were shocked to realize that the shape of each statue's ears, like the shape of each person's ears, is unique. The shape is unique. Good. A firefly uses specialized muscles to draw oxygen into its lower abdomen through narrow tubes, triggering a chemical reaction whereby the oxygen combines with chemicals in the firefly's abdomen to produce a glow. When the firefly stops drawing in oxygen, the reaction and the glow cease. Triggering a chemical reaction whereby the oxygen and the firefly produce a glow. So this is a contrast, right? By contrast, when the firefly stops drawing in oxygen, the reaction and the glow cease. So it's not for example, It's not an example of the first thing. It specifically means, for example, and why would it be a conclusion? It's kind of a different point. So yeah. Okay. Upon first approaching artist Kurt Wenner's a colorful scene painted on the surface of a cobblestone street in Mantua, Italy, one might assume a deep hole filled with life-size classically styled sculptures had opened up in the street. By expertly applying the principles of perspective, Werner created merely the illusion of depth. So this is telling me it's some sort of contrast. So, but by expertly, on the contrary, it appears to be one thing, but it's something else. Yeah. Another one of these short ones. I've seen this question before. Wants to emphasize the distance covered. So if it doesn't mention the distance, no good. The 62-mile-long Philadelphia and Lancaster Turnpike connected them. Yes. Was the first? No. No. Student wants to explain an advantage. Women in the Vote featured a drawing of a Victorian-style house with several rooms, each containing suffrage artifacts. Is that an advantage? To access video clips, songs, artwork, and text, audiences had to first click on an artifact, but it doesn't say the thing. The Women in the Vote format appealed to audiences because it allowed them to control the experience. That's an advantage. Using interactive format, theater students at Radford and Virginia Tech created Women in the Vote, a play about women, but it doesn't say it's an advantage. So it's probably this. I'm just going to move on for sake of time. The student wants to refute a claim that malapportionment in the sorting favors malapportionment in the sorting favors small urban districts. So refute that it favors small urban districts. So how would you do that? Okay. Less populated rural districts are disproportionately underrepresented in the sorting, creating an unfair advantage for smaller but more populated urban districts. So if you're refuting that that something favors urban districts, you are trying to say that it's bad for urban. Oh my God, this is like the first ever one of these where I need to do a dumb summary. So urban, bad in some way. Refute a claim that it favors small urban districts. So you want to say urban is bad. So this is saying urban is good. It's untrue that malapportionment in the 169-seat sorting favors small urban districts. Rather, the formula for distributing seats overrepresents more populated districts. Okay, is that really refuting with evidence? A common feature of representative government's malapportionment concurs? No. Awarding more points per unit of land than points per resident, the formula for distributing sorting seats overrepresents less populated rural districts with large tracts of land. I guess it's this. It's untrue. That's a refutation that malapportionment in the 169-seat sorting favors small urban districts. Rather, the formula for distributing seats overrepresents more populated districts. Is that here, though? It's untrue that malapportionment in the seats favors small urban districts. This feels like a trap. Rather, the formula for distributing seats overrepresents more populated districts. Large tracts of land. I don't love this. Yeah, I gotta move on. Seats overrepresents. Refute that it favors that. Favors small urban districts. It's like two on the nose. Like I feel like there's a trap here. Rather, the formula for distributing seats overrepresents more populated districts. But less populated rural with large tracts of land. The formula for distributing seats overrepresents more populated districts. Receive a different or seats compared. I don't think this is right. Common feature representing goes no. Awarding more points per unit of land than points per resident, the formula for distributing sorting seats overrepresents less populated rural districts with large tracts of land. Oh, I'm gonna get this wrong, I think. Let's go with D. All right. Student wants to present the study and its methodology. Okay. A study revealed that ducklings, which expend up to 62.8% less energy when swimming in a line behind their mother, also experience 7% less drag. But what's the methodology? Seeking to understand how ducklings swimming in a line behind their mother save energy, this person used computer simulations to study the effect of the mother duck's wake. Okay, that's the methodology. This person studied the physics behind the fact that by being pushed in a forward direction by waves, ducklings save energy. Yeah, but what's the methodology? Naval architect, whatever, discovered that ducklings are pushed in a direction by the waves of their mother's wake. Yeah, but how did she discover it? The methodology is the thing. So we need the computer simulation. Student wants to emphasize the aim of the research study. Thomas Rogers and whatever researchers at this university wanted to know if woodland expansion is related to changes in climate. So, okay, that sounds like an aim. Thanks to the work done by these people, we now know that droughts may have played a role in woodland expansion. Well, that's not their aim. That's kind of like a conclusion. Researchers have determined that tree population growth was associated with dry intervals. That sounds like a conclusion. Analyzed core samples from oak trees on a site that was not wood in the past, indexing the age of trees with historical climate data. So that doesn't sound like it. So that sounds like a method. Wanted to know, investigate whether woodland is related to changes in climate. Woodland expansion, yeah, that's it. Ugh. How much time did that take? That took 10 minutes. Okay, not so bad. In the indigenous intercropping system known as the Three Sisters, I've seen this question before. Maize, squash, and beans form a blank web of relations. It provides the structure. The squash covers the soil. So they're interwoven, intricate. Yeah, complex is what we're looking for. In the album, this person joined forces with singer and composer, whatever, to produce a piece that critics found truly blank. They praise, so praiseworthy. Creatively transformative, maybe. Museum Rotunda into a dynamic exhibit projecting film images of this person on filling the space with the sounds. So the critics found truly restrained is negative, inexplicable, mystifying, inventive. It's new, it's transforming, it's, inventive. I've seen that question, I think. The authors claim about the relationship between Neanderthals and Homo sapiens is blank, as it fails to account for several recent archaeological discoveries. So it's to be convincing, so unconvincing. To be is unconvincing, is tenuous. Yeah, I've seen this question too. Seminole Muskogee director Sterling Harjo, that name sounds familiar. I've seen this question too. Blank television's tendency to situate native characters in the distant past. This rejection, so rejects television's tendency, repudiates, is evident in this. Yeah, so repudiates means rejects. So recants this too, but it's not right. Recants televisions. No, it doesn't make any sense. Okay. Underline sentence. John as a child lives in the town in the woods. Perhaps 10-year-old John was puzzling to the folk there in the Florida woods, for he was an imaginative child and fond of daydreams. The St. John's River flowed a scarce 300 feet from his back door. On its banks at this point grow numerous palms, luxuriant magnolias, and bay trees. On the bosom of the stream float millions of delicately colored hyacinths. John Redding loved to wander down to the water's edge and, casting in dry twigs, watch them sail away downstream to Jacksonville to see the wide world. He wanted to follow them. So he wants to follow them. Okay. So what is its purpose? It's kind of his goals, maybe. Provides an extended description of a location that John likes to visit. Maybe. It reveals that some residents of John's town are confused by his behavior. No one's confused in that sentence. It illustrates the uniqueness of John's imagination no, he's not unique. It's not comparing him to other children. It suggests that John longs to experience a larger life outside the Florida woods. Yeah. Right, the wide world, he wanted to follow them. Yeah. Okay, let's do one of these. How are we doing on time? All right, not so bad, 20 minutes. So how would 2 respond to 1? So let's do 2 first. Economists Dario Foccarelli and Fabio Panetta have argued that research on the effects of mergers on prices focuses excessively on short-term effects. So short-term, bad, which tend to be adverse for consumers. Using the case of consumer banking in Italy, they show that over the long term, several years in their study, the efficiency gains realized by merged companies do result in economic benefits for consumers. So long term is good. So I have a feeling they're going to disagree, because they always do. When companies in the same industry propose merging with one another, they often claim that the merger will benefit consumers by increasing efficiency and therefore lowering prices. Economists, whatever, investigated this notion in the context of the United States newspaper market. She modeled a hypothetical merger of Minneapolis area newspapers and found that subscription prices would rise following a merger. So this is saying the short term is bad, right? So they're going to disagree, and he's going to say you got to look at the long term. They would recommend that Fan compares the near-term effect of a merger on subscription prices in the Minneapolis area with the effect of a merger in another newspaper market. No. They would argue that over the long term, the expenses incurred by the merged newspaper will also increase. No, that's saying that long term is bad. We want to say the long term is good. They would encourage Fan to investigate whether the projected effect on subscription prices persists over an extended period. Yep, because if it just look and see if it's good. They would claim that mergers have a different effect on consumer prices in the newspaper industry than most other industries. No, not about other industries. Definitely see. I feel like I've seen this question too. How does the Lord Chancellor, I've seen this question, respond to the crowd? A crowd is gathered outside a room belonging to the warden. One man who is more excited than the rest flung his hat high in the air and shouted as well as I could make out, who roared for the subwarden. Everybody roared, but whether it was for the subwarden or not did not clearly appear. Some were shouting bread and some taxes, but no one seemed to know what it was really wanted. They really wanted. All this I saw from the open window of the warden's breakfast saloon, looking across the shoulder of the Lord Chancellor. What can it all mean? He kept repeating to himself. I never heard such shouting before at this time of the morning too, and with such unanimity. So, okay. So he's confused about things, I guess. How does he respond? He asks about the meaning of the crowd shouting, even though he claims to know what the crowd wants. Well, he doesn't know. What can it all mean? He doesn't know. He indicates a desire to speak to the crowd, even though the crowd is asked to speak to the subwarden. I don't see that he's trying to speak to them. He expresses sympathy for the crowd's demands, even though the crowd shouting annoys him. No, he's not annoyed. He describes the crowd as being united, unanimity, even though the crowd clearly appears otherwise, because some are shouting bread, some are shouting taxes. Yes. I still hate these questions. 9. Yeah, let's do this. Undermine a hypothesis. These are fun. Okay, let's get that hypothesis. It's probably here. When digging for clams, their primary food, sea otters damage the roots of eelgrass plants growing on the seafloor. Near Vancouver Island in Canada, the otter population is large and well established, yet the eelgrass meadows are healthier than those found elsewhere off Canada's coast. To explain this, conservation scientists Aaron Foster and colleagues compared the Vancouver Island meadows to meadows where otters are absent or were reintroduced only recently. Finding that the Vancouver Island meadows have a more diverse gene pool than others do, Foster hypothesized that damage to eelgrass roots increases the plant's rate of sexual reproduction. This in turn boosts genetic diversity, which benefits the health overall. So more otters equals I guess more reproduction, which means more diversity, which means more health. Okay, I don't know. Let's see. We need to undermine it. So we need to break this in some way, right? Something has to break. So let's see. At some sites in the study, eelgrass meadows are found near otter populations that are small and have only recently been introduced. Well, that's just saying, yeah, that the meadows are there. I don't know. That doesn't seem like it's undermining it. They say that they're there. It's just stating something we know. At several sites not included in the study, there are large, well-established sea otter populations, but no eelgrass meadows, right? So B is saying you have a lot of otters, but you have no meadows. So you have none of this other stuff. So that would undermine it. At several sites not included in the study, eelgrass meadows' health correlates negatively with the length of residence and size of the otter populations. That might be better. So that means if you have more otters, then with the length of residence size of otter population. So if you have more otters, you have less health. That seems better. At some sites in the study, the health of plants unrelated to eelgrass correlates negatively with the length of. Now we're studying eelgrass, and that's kind of why this is right. How do we know why there are no meadows? It just could be that there aren't any, right? So it doesn't. We need to know how the otters affect the meadows, but if there are no meadows, we don't know for sure how they're being affected. So I think it's C. I'm going to bookmark that, but I think that's right. Support, and that name, I've seen that name before. Okay, support. Peretti's argument, argued. In the 20th century, ethnographers made a concerted effort to collect Mexican-American folklore, but they did not always agree about the folklore's origins. Scholars such as Aurelio Espinosa claimed that Mexican-American folklore derived largely from the folklore of Spain, which ruled Mexico and what is now the southwestern United States in the 16th to early 19th centuries. Scholars such as Americo Paredes, by contrast, so this guy, or person, while some Spanish influence is undeniable, Mexican-American folklore is mainly the product of ongoing interactions of various cultures in Mexico and the United States. So it's ongoing and Mexico, US. So basically the other guy is saying Spain. So we want to support that. So it's ongoing, something about Mexico and the US. The folklore that the ethnographers collected included several songs written in the form of a decima type of poem originating in late 16th century Spain. Nope, he's not about Spain. Much of the folklore that the ethnographers collected had similar elements from region to region. Who cares? I don't know. Most of the folklore that the ethnographers collected was previously unknown. Who cares? Most of the folklore that the ethnographers, I can't say that word, collected considered corridos, ballads about history and social life of a clearly recent origin. So ongoing. Good enough. Logically completes. 5 questions left. All right, we're doing good. This is surprisingly good for a hard module. Some economists attribute the increasing adoption of automation technology by firms in the United States in part to the productivity gains firms can achieve by automating tasks previously requiring paid labor. Oh, I think I know this. I know this name too. I've seen this question. This one is hard. Recently complicated this account by showing that not only that automation's productivity gains are often unremarkable, but there is a disparity in the U.S. tax code between automation technology and the labor it is nominally equivalent to. Tax code classifies automation-related technology as a depreciating asset, meaning that capital expenditures on that technology can reduce a firm's tax burden relative to its tax burden if equivalent expenditures were labor costs. Okay. So this is about, what is this about? Okay. It's saying attributed to increasing adoption of automation in part of the productivity gains. So more automation equals more productivity. But it's being complicated. So maybe not. Maybe it's a not equals situation, right? Recently complicated by showing that not only that automation productivity gains are often unremarkable, meaning they're questioning this part, but that there's a disparity in the U.S. tax code between automation technology and the labor it is nominally equivalent to. The tax code classifies automation-related technology as a depreciating asset, meaning that capital expenditures on that technology can reduce a firm's tax burden relative to its tax burden if equivalent expenditures were on labor. So it's about money, right? So it's saying increase of automation is not about productivity, it's about money. Okay. The explanation that some economists have offered for the U.S. firm's increasing adoption of automation technology may be based on an overestimation of the tax benefits and productivity gains associated with that technology. Well, it might be an overestimation of the productivity gains, but the tax benefits? I don't think so. We'll leave it. U.S. firms' increasing adoption of automation technology may be driven more by the fact that the government indirectly incentivizes firms to adopt that technology than by the ongoing benefits that the technology has for firms' outputs. Yes, it's more about money than productivity. So incentives, that's money. It's more about that than it is about the output, which is productivity. I think that's the answer. Changes to the U.S. tax code that result in capital expenditures and automation technology being treated the same as expenditures and labor costs would likely have little effect on firms' productivity, but may encourage further adoption of the technology. No, we're trying to say that there's a difference between labor and there's a difference between labor and automation. So I don't think that's right. U.S. firms have actually tended to experience a decrease in productivity. No. No, they don't say a decrease. So it's definitely this. I got to move on just for time, but I'm pretty sure. Let's bookmark it. I'm pretty sure that that's right. So let's do 14. Okay. And I don't think that's it from memory. I just think I do think I have an advantage that I kind of remember this is about that, what it's about, but it's not so much I remember the answer itself. Okay. Morphological novelty of echinoderms, marine invertebrates with radial symmetry, usually star-like around a central point, impedes comparisons with other animals. So impedes comparisons with most other animals in which bilateral symmetry on an anterior posterior head to tail axis through a trunk is typical. Particularly puzzling are sea stars, thought to have evolved a headless layout from a known bilateral origin, applying genomic knowledge of this thing, of acorn worms, close relatives of sea stars, and thus expect to have similar markers for corresponding anatomical regions to the body patterning genes of this sea star. These people observed activity only in the anterior genes across the sea star's entire body, and some posterior genes limited to the edges. What? Okay. Okay. So they're saying the worm is supposed to be equal to the star. Okay. Observed activity only in anterior genes. So the anterior is the head. So they observed activity only in anterior genes across the star. So the star is head genes, not, and some posterior genes limited to the edges. So these are tail genes, only in edges. What? Okay, I don't know. Despite the greater prevalence of anterior genes in sea stars' genetic makeup, posterior genes active at the body's perimeter are primarily responsible for the star-like layout that distinguishes sea stars' radial symmetry from that of other echinoderms. Greater prevalence of anterior genes in sea stars' genetic. I mean, they're not saying there's more or less of the gene overall. They're talking about the activity of the gene in different places. So I don't think that's right. Contrary to the belief that they evolved from early ancestors with the bilateral form typical of many other animals, sea stars instead originated with an atypical body layout that was neither bilaterally nor radially symmetrical. How would we know that? So, right, the head genes are its entire body. So, everywhere. So it's like the edges are tails, is what they're saying, and the heads everywhere. I don't even know what this is saying. Originated with an atypical body layout, there's neither bilaterally, maybe. Although the two species are closely related, there's only minimal correspondence in genetic markers for head, tail, and trunk development. No, because they're trying to say they're the same. So no. Rather than undergoing changes resulting in the eventual elimination of a head region in their radial body plan as previously assumed, sea stars' morphology evolved to completely lack a trunk and consist primarily of a head region. Kind of like that, right? It says there's a lot of head, right? There's a lot of head. Head is everywhere. There's only little tails. So we're going to go with that. That's kind of what I matched with my dumb summary. So let's go back to some other questions. Let's do this guy. This seems maybe doable. Okay. In the study of these things, encoding peptides that combat pathogen, okay, researchers assessed resistance to pathogenic infections, bacteria common in the fly's environment. Subjects included flies identified mutations silencing these different things. Times AB and AB. In conjunction with the observation that resistance to this correlates with DPTA, so that's this guy, but is not significantly affected by DPTB. Data in the graph of survey. Okay, what? So this one's high, survival rate. Most of these are alive. So that's the A one, and these are down. Confers defense against regardless of the presence of DPTA. No, this is saying that the AB is bad. DPT protects against only bacteria species, whereas it protects against multiple? No. DPT may have developed a specific defense? No. Defense against this thing is strongest when both? Yes. No. Oh, God. Okay, wait. Do you not understand this? Okay. Right, so the type A flies is not, so in conjunction with the observation that resistance correlates with this activity, but is not significantly affected by DPTB activity, data in the graph of survival rates suggests that DPTA confers defense against this regardless of the presence of DPTA. DPTA protects against only one bacteria species, whereas protects against multiple species. Infections, flies, silencing, resistance to. So this is one of them correlates to DPTA. Following infection, aren't they affected with both? Data in the graph of survival post a. What? Oh my God. Suggests that may have developed as a specific defense. The infection is killing them. It's killing the Bs and the ABs. Defense against is strongest when both no as a specific defense. Protects against only one bacteria species, regardless of the presence of DPTA? No, because if it's DPTB is there, that's both. So I guess, I don't know, I'm lost. Is multiple species? Because there's two, I know there's two species here. I have no idea what's going on. Let's go to 8. Oh God. Charts are usually better. Are thought to have the strongest bites of any land. Determine the bite force of the extinct animals can be difficult, however, suggests an estimate of dinosaur bite force may be significantly influenced by the methodology. Okay. A study by Mears and used body mass scaling and the lowest estimated maximum bite force. So study by Mears has the lowest? No. No. In their study, Gignac and Erickson used tooth bone to produce an estimated bite force of 8,000. Okay, yes, but I need to compare. Bite force estimates produced by Bates and Falkingham were similar. Yeah. Well, the estimates produced by Mears and Gignac and Erickson each differed substantially because they're using different methods. Maybe estimated maximum bite force produced by Cost et al. Exceeded the estimated maximum produced by Bates, even though both groups of research is the same. But we're trying to support that, so we want to say that the methodology influences it. So this is contrasting different methodologies. All right, 8. Which was okay? Charles and Stevens claim. Okay, then investigate a variety of factors influence voter turnout using survey data. About politics. Claim that the likelihood of voting is driven in part by potential voters' confidence in their assessment of candidates. Voters' confidence. Essentially, the more informed voters are about politics, the more confident they are at evaluating whether candidates share their views. So, okay, voters political and okay, low information, high information. So, support. At each point on the political scale, high information voters were more likely than low information voters to vote. That is true. Okay, so for lack of anything better, that seems to work. Only low information voters who identify as independents had a voting probability of below 50%. Well, we're trying to compare low and high, I would think. The closer that low information voters are to the ends of the political scale, the more likely they were to vote. Okay, sure. High information voters were more likely to identify as strong Democrats or strong Republicans. We don't know that. Right? So at each point, right? So the more informed voters are about politics, the more confident they are valuing their other candidates. Yes, the more likely they are to vote. Each point, high information voters. Yes. Oof. I already forgot the one I wanted to go back to. It was this one, right? It's this thing. Contrary to the belief that they evolved from earlier ancestors within the bilateral form, typical of many other animals, sea stars instead originate with an atypical body layout. But how would we know that? Right? It's puzzling. Yeah, it was thought that they'd have a headless layout, but they maybe don't. This is tough. This is tough. Yeah, I definitely, I think I picked it up a little bit once I got into it. I recognize a lot of these questions, though. I think that maybe gives me an advantage. So again, most people who I'm talking to now have no idea what I'm talking about, because if this is 2-3 years from now, if you're watching this video after I've made it, tests 1, 2, and 3 are long gone. So you would never have to worry about that. But I do feel like I had a little bit of an advantage in that some of those passages I kind of knew, maybe, especially the one about the taxes. That one I feel like I knew what was important and what wasn't. But I didn't remember the answer. I still had to do all that work. So I don't know how much of an advantage it gives me. I mean, look, I was still working right up until the end. And you heard me say I recognized a bunch of those questions. So it goes to show that if you are looking for more practice questions, the reading section, you're probably not going to remember things that you did a couple of months ago. I teach these tests, these questions every day of my life. So I don't remember the last time I taught the tax question or whatever, but like I've seen them multiple times over the past several weeks, months, years. So if I have trouble remembering the answer, what hope do you have if you see it once and then 3 months go by and then you can do it again? So the idea in reading of maybe repeating questions and seeing the same thing twice, not a big deal. So if you're looking to do the question bank, if you've gone through all of it, if you've gone through all the practice tests, go back to the beginning and do it again. You're probably fine. And you should be doing what I'm doing. You should still be proving answers the way I am. And you know, who knows? Maybe I even got some of these wrong. But where I think we're going to have a bigger problem is when we do the math section. I think that in those cases, seeing the same hard math question twice, you're going to remember how to solve. And I think that that might give you an advantage. So we're going to see. I will talk through it as always, but I'm going to take a break. And yeah, we'll pick it up in a sec. All right, and we're back. And as always, if you are taking a practice test, you should let this clock run out. You should take your break, get up, walk around, go to the bathroom, eat something, have some water, whatever it is, some caffeine if you really need it. I am starting to feel the test a little bit, but that also is how I always feel. after a hard reading module. It's always very mentally draining. So that's good, because now we go into the easier, the first reading math module, where I'll basically be able to kind of let my brain kind of, rejuvenate. I'm going to be using Desmos a lot, that's for sure. But I shouldn't have any problems with timing. I'll be curious again how many questions of these I recognize. With math, obviously, it's harder because if you see one algebra equation, they all there's numbers and letters. So it's more the weird hard stuff that I might recognize again. But yeah, let's just give it a go and start off. Okay, what is the y-intercept of the graph? It's 8, 0, 8. Done. Okay, what is the value of x when x is negative 8? So go to my scratch paper here. 2 is negative 3 times negative 8 plus 60. So that's 24 plus 60 is 84. Should be good. Negative 3, 8 times 3 is 24. Yes. Cool. A producer is creating a video with a length of 70 minutes. The video will consist of segments that are 1 minute long and segments that are 3 minutes long. Which equation represents this situation where x represents the number of 1 minute? So we need the, okay, and y represents the number of 3 minutes. So the 3 needs to go with the y. We wouldn't add them at all. And they add up to 70, yeah. A bowl contains 20 ounces of water. When the bowl is uncovered, the amount of water in the bowl decreases by 1 ounce every 4 days. If 9 ounces of water remain in this bowl, how many days has it been uncovered? Okay, this is just don't make a careless mistake is really all this is, right? So there's 20 ounces. We lose 1 ounce every 4 days. There's 9 ounces left. So we've lost 11 ounces gone, right? So 1 ounce every 4 days. So times 4 is 44 days. How many days have been uncovered, right? So 1 ounce every 4 days. So that's 11 ounces. If we lost them, we'd have 9 left. Yep. Glue sticks. Ooh, I feel like that's familiar. Which statement best compares the standard deviations? Well, it's the same shape, so should be the same standard deviation. Class A is less than. Nope. Equal to. That seems right. Greater than. Nope. And we can determine it. We never have to, but we can because we have all the points. So yeah, they're the same shape, right? 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 2, 3, 4, 5, yeah. Okay. All right, so this, we could arithmetize, but 7x cubed minus 6x cubed is x cubed. So nope and nope. And then 7x minus or plus 3x is 10x. Yeah. I could easily come back and check this with Desmos later. So we'll do that. Basically, first module, if I'm marking something for review, it's because I want to come back with it in Desmos later and just do it another way. I will unmark it so that I don't review it later when I know I'm right. But it's just a little habit. Okay. I can't read this. What's the value of k? It's k over 2. Okay, so let's just draw a little triangle here. So that's an ugly triangle, but fine. A, B, C. A is 54. B is 90, so fine. And C is whatever's left over, and that's equal to k over 2. So 180 minus 90 is 90. 90 minus 54 is 36. 90 minus 54, regular calculator, 36. And that, just be careful here, so that's an answer, of course, but that is equal to k over 2. I'm surprised 18 isn't an answer, because that would have been a nice little trap. So we just multiply by 2. We get k is 72. Yeah. If you pick this, oh gosh, guys, you got to know this is coming. Okay. What is one of the solutions? 0 is a solution. 4 is a solution. And negative 5 is a solution. So there you go. I could easily check this in Desmos as well. Chemist combines water and acetic acid to make a mixture with a volume of 56 milliliters. And the volume of acetic acid in the mixture is 10 milliliters. What is the volume of water in milliliters in the mixture? Assume that the volume of the mixture is the sum of the volumes of water and acetic acid before they're mixed. Combines water and acetic to make a mixture. The volume 56. The volume of acetic acid in the mixture is 10. So isn't it 46? I mean, it's the first module, so it's not going to be crazy hard. Even number 9, I guess, is kind of easy. I don't there's no trap here, right? I mean, the total volume is 56, right? I mean, you could, even if you just wanted to follow the story a little bit, right? Or this is 9 rather. So the chemist combines water and acetic acid to get the mixture. We're given the volume of the mixture. The volume of acetic acid is 10. And what is the volume of water in milliliters, right? They're not changing the units. So yeah, 56 minus 10 is 46. Okay, I do these this way. Let's make a little chart. How many feet is 354 furlongs? 1 furlong is 220 yards, and 1 yard is 3 feet. So feet goes, furlongs, yards, 1 on each side. Now we know we're done. Multiply down. X is equal to 354 times 220 times 3 is, oh my God, 233640. How many points do the graphs intersect? They don't, because it's parallel lines. Cool, same slope. All right, every time it's percents, I'm afraid I'm going to make a careless mistake or fall for a trap. So 13 is p percent of 25. So that's my normal open formula. So 13 is my new value, 25 is my original, and we're looking for p, but it's a slightly different p than they've got, because if I'm going to divide by 25, I'm going to get p is 13 divided by 25 is 0.52. But that's not my answer because they're giving p as a percentage. So it's not 0.52%, it is 52%. So 52. Only downside of the open formula is the p is in a decimal form. So you got to convert back if the question wants. Okay, this function gives the number of bacteria in a population. How much time in minutes does it take for the number of bacteria in the population to double? I've seen this exact question with different numbers on another practice test. So it's kind of funny. Got to see this. 410. So how long does it take to double? 410. Because if you had 0 time, it would be 60,000 because that's an exponent of 0. So that's just times 1. And then if you were to get 410, that exponent would be 1. 2 to the first is 2. So 2 times 60,000 is 120,000. Yep. Okay. There we go. Each year, the value of an investment increases by 0.49% of its value the previous year. So previous year tells me it's exponential. Which of the following functions best models? So it's not a decrease. Yeah, because it says increase. And it's an increasing exponential because it's the previous year. There you go. A circle in the xy plane has a diameter with endpoints 2,4 and 214. An equation of the circle is that where r is a positive constant. What is the value of r? Plug points into equations. We got points, and they're on the edge of the circle, so that's fine. So 2 minus 2 squared plus y is 4 minus 9 squared is r squared. So 2 minus 2 is 0, so this whole thing goes away. 4 minus 9 is negative 5, so negative 5 squared is 25, and we can see where the r is, so r is 5. But can it also be negative 5? No, because it's a distance, and distances have to be positive. So there you go, radius is 5. Cool. Yeah, I could easily check this in Desmos too. This is very easy. In the right triangle r is t, the sum of measures of these angles, okay. Okay, so this is using, you know what? Let's just do this in old-fashioned way. I was going to use a different formula, and some of you might know what I'm going to do, what I was going to do, but we're going to just use a traditional formula. So r is t, the sum of the measures of angle r and s is 90, meaning t is the right angle. The value of sine of r, so SOHCAHTOA, value of sine r is radical 15 over 4. So opposite of r is radical 15, and the hypotenuse is 4. What is the value of cosine of s? So cosine of s, now I'm over here, so cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse. So notice it's the same thing, radical 15 over 4. And that's obvious if you know the other rule for trigonometry, but watch my lesson on that. Given equation relates to distinct positive numbers, which equation correctly expresses 4j plus 9. Okay, so you could arithmetize here, 17, but you don't really need to because the thing they're asking for is the same as the thing that we are given. So 4j plus 9 in terms of p and k. So we would cross multiply. So we would get p times 4j plus 9 is equal to k. And then we would divide by p to get 4j plus 9 alone. And k over p is here. Yeah. Again, we could arithmetize. Maybe with time I'll do it. Okay. Plug points into equations. We have points. We have an inequality. Good enough. So 21 is greater than 13 times 3, which is 39 minus 18. 39 minus 18 is 21. So this is saying 21, this is choice A, is greater than 21. It's not. So no. Okay. Choice B. So 26 is greater than 13 times 3, which is 39 minus 18. So 13 minus 18, we already said is 21. So 26 is greater than 21. That checks out. Let's try C. So this is going to be 16 is greater than 39 again, minus 18. So we keep getting 16 and 21. No, it's not. And D. Oh, same point. So we got to do the other point. Let's do 5. So see, I hate these big ones. You got to scroll around. So 42 is greater than 13 times 5. 13 times 5 is 65. Is greater than 65 minus 18, which is 47. 42 is greater than 47. Oop, sorry, that's B again. No, it's not. So that can't be right. Let's just double check. So this would be D now. So 52 is greater than 65 minus 18. So 52 is greater than 47. 91 is greater than, what was it, 13 times 8? 104 minus 18. 86. Cool. Next. And it's perpendicular. Okay, so easy. Let's get the slope of the line and then just flip it and reverse it. Negative reciprocal. So 3y plus 12x equals 5. Notice me using my scratch paper and showing every step. Why? Because if I lose a negative here, game over. So do whatever you can to make sure you don't lose a negative. So divide by 3, divide by 3, divide by 3. So y is negative 4x plus 5/3. I don't care about the y-intercept, I care about the slope. Because if it's perpendicular, then we need to do the negative reciprocal. So negative 4 is perpendicular to positive 1/4. 1/4. Again, we can check this just by typing them both in Desmos and seeing what we get. Okay. In the given equation, D and G are unique positive constants. When the equation is graphed in the xy plane, how many distinct x-intercepts does the graph have? You could just use, you could easily just arithmetize and use the slider here, but D is one of them, negative D is one of them, negative G is one of them, and then D is one of them. So these two are the same, so this goes, so it's 1, 2, 3. You could easily do this in Desmos. I'm gonna have so much time, oh my gosh. For the exponential function, the value of f1 is k, where k is a constant, which the following equivalent forms of the function shows the value k is the coefficient or the base. That means like the number in front of x or here. Yeah, okay. The value of f1 is k. Okay. Here's a good example where like, don't worry too much about what they're asking. F of 1 is k. Plug points into equations, right? So 50 times 1.6 squared, because 1 plus 1 is equal to what? So 1.6 squared times 50 is 128, right? So that's supposed to be K. Do you see 128 anywhere in choice A? No. So that's what they're asking, right? The value of K. So it shows the value of it shows 128 as the coefficient or the base. 128 isn't in here, right? So this is a good example where once you have the number, you can even understand the question better just by like plugging it into the sentence. So I'm sure there's some sort of shortcut I can do, but I'm not going to bother. I want to rest my brain. So f of 1 we're still doing. So this is 80 times 1.6, and that's 128. Again, I don't see a 128, so that's gone. C, 128 looks good, times 1.6 to the 1 minus 1 is 0. So this goes away. That's just 1. So there's 128. And is 128 in there? Yeah, so that's the answer. 204.8 times 1.6 to the negative 1. 1.6 to the negative 1 times 204.8 is 128. Wow. So the only one with the 128 is C. That's it. Done. Cool. I don't even know how you would guess how you would check this otherwise. You would just need to maybe. I mean, Desmos isn't going to tell you anything. They're just going to give you 4 graphs. So you have to understand what this is asking. Okay. For what value g of x as it reaches minimum? All right. Perfect. I have not used Desmos at all. This is a perfect one to do it. F of x equals 4x squared plus 64x plus 262. Cool. G of x is equal to f of x plus 5. So we need to know for what value of x does g of x reach its minimum. So there's my g of x, right? Turn f of x off, and it's at negative 13. Done. I don't know what else you would do. That's fine. There's an algebra way to do it, but gosh, why would you bother? Okay, I've got 18 minutes. This is a long time. I'm probably going to cut this short, but let me just think about this one a second more and see, is there anything else I would do here? Did I type it right? 4x squared plus 64x plus 262. F of x plus 5 looks good. So yeah, for what value of x does it reach its minimum? The minimum is the vertex. So there you go, negative 13. There's no other way to do it, really. So that's done. Let's go back to 6. Let's do some of these things with some Desmos just to be really sure it didn't mess up. So if these are equivalent, they should produce the same shape. So 7x to the third plus 7x minus 6x to the third minus 3x. So that's some sort of shape here. I don't even know what it looks like, but let's just see if x to the third plus 10x looks the same. Yeah, I mean, you can just tell, look at it. It's giving me all these little points because it's showing where they interact, where they hit. So, it's annoying that you kind of just have to look at it. But yeah, I mean, you can tell they're the same, right? If I took this off, it's overlapping. So yeah, good. 8 solutions. 3x times x minus 4 times x plus 5 equals 0. 0. 3x minus 4, x plus 5 is 0. So what is one of the solutions? It's 0. It's clearly 0. Negative 4, or positive 4, negative 5. Done. Easy. You really shouldn't need Desmos for this, but it just goes to show, like, if you're not that great at math, you can get by, at least in the first module. Let's go back here. 15. Okay. X minus 2 squared plus y minus 9 squared equals, now I said r is 5, so 5 squared. Okay, so that's that. And then we have the points 2, 4, and 2, 14 as endpoints. So let's just see. Yeah, it looks good, right? There's my circle. Those are the points. Clearly endpoints of a diameter, you can tell. So there you go. I guess I plug points into equations just out of habit here, but right, we could have recognize that 2, 4 and 214 are both kind of in line vertically. And since they're endpoints of a diameter, they have to completely cross the circle. So you can tell then that the diameter would be 10, 14 minus 4, and then half of 4 is 5. That's the radius. So there you go. That's another way to do it. But notice that's a little more conceptual. You have to understand kind of what the picture looks like without having the picture. Whereas plug points into equations there is just like very mindless. I love it. I love plug points into equations whenever I can. 17. I mean, let's do a little fun with Desmos here. Okay. P equals K divided by 4J plus 9. So it doesn't like any of this. So it's going to have me add sliders. So now it's telling me what P is. So, okay, fine. So P is this random number. Can I adjust this so P is like a nicer number here? Ugh, freaking stupid Desmos. 0.04. Cool. I like that. So what am I doing? So 4J plus 9, we can do that. So 4J plus 9 is 25. And we need to express 4J plus 9. So we have to get 25 using K's and P's. So what if I just did K divided by P? There's my answer, right? So 25. So that's choice A, giving me the same value. What if I did K times P? Nope, no good, right? It's got to be 25. K minus P. Nope, no good. P divided by K. Nope, no good, right? So this is, you can use Desmos and arithmetize something like this actually pretty easily. Because it's going to force you to do the sliders for this stuff, and then you can kind of get P the other way, and it still knows what P is. If you adjust the numbers, it'll give you different things. So it actually wouldn't have really mattered if P was a messy number. It still would have worked, right? Because was it K over P? 20.2, 20.2. Yeah, doesn't matter. All right. What else? I'm getting bored. 19. Okay, let's graph some lines here. Okay. 3y plus 12x equals 5. And I had a slope of 1/4. So why don't we just do y equals 1/4 x, keep it really straightforward. All I care about is, does this look perpendicular? Yes. If I start zooming, oh, because I'm using it with the mouse, it's fine too. But that just looks perpendicular. You can kind of tell. So there you go. Done. Check. Let's see what this guy does. Okay. Y equals 2 x minus d, x plus d, x plus g, x minus d. So how many distinct x-intercepts? Now, this is what's sneaky, because it looks like it's 2. Ooh, Desmos might get it wrong here. Interesting. Now, the reason... Okay, so the reason is that Desmos defaults to 1. But notice what it says here. They are unique positive constants. So we just got to make g like 2, and suddenly the problem fixes itself. How many x-intercepts? 1, 2, 3. Exactly what we expect. Yeah, you could play with it. It wouldn't make a difference. It's still 3. It's just where the 3 are that'll change. But yeah, if they're the same number, you got a problem. And it says they're positive, so negatives must break it down in some way too. Cool. Okay. I got nothing else. 11 minutes left. Yeah. So, real test, rest your brain, see how it goes. Like try to, like honestly, if this was the real test, go all the way back, do this, but notice that like, I'm not checking these things because in the moment I'm checking them. I'm like making sure, okay, 0, 8. Is there a point here that's like 8, 0, right? Like would I accidentally make a mistake of confusing X and Y? Well, no, because it's they want the y-intercept. There's definitely no 6 here, and then there's no -8. Like you can kind of anticipate what the potential mistake is for different types of things, right? So what's the mistake here? Mistake here would be putting -8 as the y. So if I did -8 and then subtracted 60, that's -68, and then divided by -3, well, that's not going to work out nicely anyway, so it wouldn't really give you anything. But that could be a mistake. Here, though, yeah. I mean, I could do the Desmos here, too. F of x is equal to negative 3x plus 60. And then f of negative 8 is 84. Done. Right? Or you could just type in x is equals negative 8 and find whatever that point of intersection is somewhere here. And that would work, too. X is equal to 8 or negative 8 and 84. Right? So, with 10 minutes, just do it, right? You never know what you misread. I'm going to, not do that because I'm confident and I want to get to the hard module and be done with this for the day. But, it is what it is. But yeah, so let's take a break and I'll pick it up in the hard module in a second. All right, final module, and then we'll do the scores after, but I am spent. So we'll see what we get on this one. It's the hard module. On the old versions of tests 1, 2, and 3, just so you know, one of the biggest reasons that those tests became discontinued, were unreliable, was that pretty much every question had a Desmos answer. Even the hardest stuff, you could just plug it in Desmos, you get the answer. I think we saw on the first module that there's still some really easy stuff, but it's really that hard module where things get crazy. So I am curious, as someone who remembers the easiness of tests 1, 2, and 3, and knowing that tests 8, 9, and 10 are going to be composed of questions from those earlier tests, I'm curious if the College Board has improved upon the difficulty of the exam by giving us questions that are a little bit more challenging and maybe not as useful, or the calculator is not as useful. So we will see. My brain is definitely feeling foggy. So let's just get into it and get it over with. Here we go. Okay. Still going to be easy right up front. So which equation is the same solution? So if you subtract 6 from both sides, you get 12. 4x is 12. Done. Total cost to lease a car for 36 months from a particular car dealership is that, where X is the monthly payment in dollars, was the total cost to lease a car when the monthly payment is $400, where X is the monthly payment. So we just multiply, right? So 2, so that's 36 times 400 plus 1,000. 1,000. So 36 times 400 is 14400 plus 1,000 is 15400. Right? Because that's the monthly payment, where X is the monthly payment. 400 is the monthly payment. Yeah, monthly payment. Oh my gosh. You can tell. I'm barely making words. Okay. Yeah, seems fine. If it's shifted down, what is the y-intercept? Well, let's just look at it. Yeah, let's just look at it. I could do it other ways, but 27x plus 33y is equal to 297. So the y-intercept is 9. You move 5 down, 9 minus 5, 4. Yeah. Did I enter it right? 27x plus 32y is 297. It's shifted down, right? So we're not shifting it back up. So that's like, yeah, this would be the trap, I guess. Yeah. What is the y-intercept? -2. Plug in 0, kills this off, -2. I mean, you could put this in Desmos. If I have time, we'll come back and do it, but I don't foresee this. Ooh, this question looks familiar. Graph shows a relationship. All right, regardless of whether it looks familiar, regardless of whether I've done this before, you've got to be able to recognize the plug points into equations when you see it, right? I mean, we have points. Let's just start with the easiest one. Let's start with 0, 40, the y-intercept. So we can tell just by the way that A looks, the y-intercept would be 12, and you can plug in 0 to make sure, but that doesn't work. Same thing with C, right? The y-intercept would be 8 there. Now with these two, I don't know, but it doesn't take more than a second to just plug it in. So B would be 0 plus 12 times 40 is 480. So 12 times 4 is 48, so that checks out, 480. D, the 0 goes in for the x, right? So 0 plus 8 times 40, well, that's 240. No, 320. I'm going to need that calculator today, I can tell, for this. Okay, so yeah, there's no reason to rearrange this to y equals mx plus b. Always plug points in equations. Doesn't matter what the equation looks like. If you plug points in equations, you can just see how the point fits. All right, solution is something. So what is the value of this? I am sure that if I just did some little shortcut and added these together in some convenient way, I would get exactly what I need, but I don't care. So we're going to just let Desmos do it. Anytime there's a system of equations and it's not like, an easy, where one of the equations isn't just like x equals 4, we're always going to do this. So first of all, did I type it right? 5 halves x plus 6y equals 23. Check. 7 halves x plus 6y equals 25. Check. Here's my point. 2, 3. Okay, so 2, 3. So that's 17 halves times 2 plus 18 times 3, right? 2, 3. 2, 3. 17 halves, 18. 71. Done. All right, looks like another plug points in equations. Which table represents y equals f of x minus 3? Okay, so the only thing here is this is f of x, and we got to subtract 3 from it. So, okay, 4, 7, 4, 3, 4, negative 3, 4, 1. Okay, so they all have different 4s. 4, 7, 4, 3, 4, negative 3, 4, 1. So I'm going to use that point because it's also mathematically easiest for my brain. So this is a good example of be lazy in a smart way. So I'm doing f of 4 and minus 3. So f of 4 is 4 plus 6 times 4 plus 5 times 4 minus 4. Oh my God, minus 3. So that's 0. So that knocks everything out. So it's negative 3. It's this. I will definitely come back to this with Desmos. It's got to be that, but it's just a good example of like, it takes 2 seconds in Desmos. But let's move on for now. Decreases by 45% for every increase in the value of x by 1. If q of 0 is 14, which equation? Okay, well, just plug points in equations. Plug in 0. We're not going to get 14 here. We're not going to get 14 here. It's one of these two. And it decreases by 45%, meaning it's this. Right, so just put in 1. If you put in 1, you get 14 times 0.55, which is some smaller number than 14, so it's decreasing. This one would increase. So just plug points in equations. Works easily. No reason to get that wrong. Submersible device is used for ocean research. The function whatever gives the depth below the surface of the ocean in meters of the submersible device x minutes after collecting a sample where x is greater than 0. How many minutes after collecting the sample did it take for the submersible device to reach the surface? So reaching the surface is a depth of 0. Right? And so the function gives the depth. So we want this equal to 0. So I can do this in Desmos, but I want to write it out, but it just seems to be easy because it's factored already. So x plus 19 and x minus 35. So negative 19, but that can't work because you can't have negative time, and x is 35. Yeah, there you go. So again, you put this in Desmos and just tap the points, but yeah, easy. A cube is an edge length of 68. A solid sphere with a radius of 34 inches inside the cube. Touch the sphere, touch the center of each face of the cube to the nearest cubic inch. What is the volume of the space in the cube not taken up by the sphere? Okay, so this is a question. I've definitely seen this before because I remember this part, radius of 34 inches. They don't have to tell you that because if we know how big the cube is and the sphere fits inside the cube, then we know the radius of the cube of the sphere. So this question, if my memory serves, was not on a previous practice test. This is from the question bank. And so maybe we're spoiling some questions in that question bank. Lovely. Okay. So what are we doing? What is the volume of the space, the cube, not taken up by the sphere? So the volume of a cube is the length times width times height. They're all the same, so it's 68 cubed. So volume of the cube, 68 to the third, is 314,432. So this is the cube. The volume of the sphere is 4/3 pi r cubed. That is given right here. 4/3 pi r cubed. Close. And what are we doing? We are getting a radius of 34. So 4/3 pi times 34 cubed, 34 to the third. 39304 times pi times 4 divided by 3 is 1, 6, 4, 6, 3, 6. Subtract 3, 1, 4, 4, 3, 2, minus 1, 6, 4, 6, 3, 6, 1, 4, 9, 7, 9, 6. Let's just make sure that's what they want. What is the volume of the space in the cube not taken out of the sphere? So you got a cube, pull out a sphere, there's a little empty space. That's what we want. Good. What's the sum of the solutions? Let's find out. With a little Desmos. X times x plus 1 minus 56 equals 4x, x minus 7. 7 and 2.667. Okay. I hate when they do this. So I can just add these up, and it's 9.667, right? So 9.667. You got to be careful with this, though, right? So basically, you got to go all the way. So does it say this here? You can enter up to 5 characters for a positive answer. I've done that. 9.667. That's 5 characters. Can I try to add another? No, it doesn't let me. So that's how you know you're good. Always go to the end if you have a decimal that is clearly repeating. 9.667 is very clearly a repeating decimal of some sort of 2/3 in there. So yeah, you got to put it that way. I'd love to have the fraction of that, so maybe I'll come back if I got time. Okay, which are size and the corresponding value is y. Okay. Yeah, we kind of just did a question like this. So we're going to do it again. Is there anything? So they kind of all have overlap. So let's just do the 3, right? So 12. So we've got 20 is less than 6 times 3 is 18 plus 2. No, it's not. So there goes A. B is 16 is less than 18 plus 2. Yes, it is. C is going to work as well. D, just go an assembly line, and an assembly line, 24 is less than 18 plus 2. No, it's not. So, okay, then we need to see, we got rid of A, we got rid of D. What's different? Let's do the 5s, 5 and 36 and 5 and 28. Okay, so 36 is less than 5 times 6 is 30 plus 2. No, it's not. And 28 is less than 5 times 6 is 30 plus 2. Yes. Done. Notice no Desmos here. Just plug points into equations. Just test them out. I feel like Desmos with an inequality is very confusing because then you're looking at all these points. Very easy to look in the wrong place. What is the diameter of the circle? Well, 4 is the radius and the diameter is 8. This is kind of easy for number 13. I don't, this is a joke, this test so far. Okay, what is the value of C? Here's a case where I'm going to go to Desmos. I could do the discriminant here, but I know what I'm going to do. 9x squared or negative 9x squared plus 30x plus C. And I'm going to add a slider for C. And basically it's going to graph the parabola. And there it is. And I want one solution. So I want, in this case, the solution is going to be an x-intercept, right? Because this is where y is equal to 0. So if I were to put the equal 0 here, it would start to look different. It would look like vertical lines. But I don't want to do that. But I want to just guess and check. So if this weren't a question with answer choices, I would do the discriminant. But because it's answer choices, I'm just going to try them. So 3 as C doesn't work. That has multiple solutions. 0 as C doesn't work. Multiple solutions. How about negative 25? Looks pretty good, right? I mean, it's right on there. What about negative 53? Nope, no solutions. Yeah. This seems like a very heavy Desmos test for this hard module. In triangle XYZ, angle Y is right angle, 33, 26. Okay, let's just draw it out. Okay, this is 15. So one of these, Y is the right angle, so that's here. X and Z. The measure angle Z is 33. And the length of YZ is 26. if the area in square units of triangle XYZ can be represented by the expression K tan 33, okay, so, right, so area of the triangle is 1/2 base times height. So that's 1/2 of, or here, let's do this. So K tan 33 is equal to 1/2. The base is 26. The height is unknown. Right, so let's just compare here. So 1/2 of 26 is 13. So what do we want to know? K is a constant. What is the value of K? Can I just, tan 33 is a number. So K is the height. So tan, or so ka toa. So tan of 33 is the opposite. So xy over adjacent, which is 26. So xy, if I multiply the 26, is 26 tan 33. What am I doing? Obviously this is 13. So 26 tan 33 is this. That's the height. So K, oh my God, tan 33 is equal to 13. The height is 26 tan 33. So this will cancel, this will cancel. So K is 13 times 26. I feel like I'm adding some extra numbers here. 13 times 26 is 338. 338. That seems wrong. Okay. What am I doing? I feel like I'm losing it. Okay, so the area in square units. So let's just degrees. So the area is 1/2 base times height. So we did SOHCAHTOA, right? So the height, xy, is 26 tan 33. So that's some number. And that's equal to K, or X. Let's do an X so that we can graph the answer. Tan 33. And X should be 338. Let's bookmark it. I don't know. Unless I'm just conceptually thinking about this. My brain is a little fried, but all right, let's just move on. The regular price of a shirt is that. The sale price of the shirt is 8% less, blah, blah. Okay. All right, so we're going to have to do open formulas. That's fine. Okay. 16. Price of a regular shirt is $11.70. So $11.70 is my original. Sale price of the shirt is 80% less than the regular price. So 1 minus 0.8 is 80% less than. So that is the sale price, which is $11.70 times 0.2 is $2.34. I feel like I've done this question before. And the sale price is 30% greater than the store's cost for the shirt. So 30% greater than is this, then is this is the cost. The sale price of the shirt is less than the regular price. And the sale price is 30% greater than, right? The than is pointing me to the original value. So the sale price is 30% greater than the store's cost. So let's just call that X for now. So I'm going to divide both sides by 1.3. So X is 2.34 divided by 1.3, which is 1.8, so $1.80. What was the store's cost in dollars for the shirt? So 180. I don't need the zero. In fact, let's leave it off so I can prove that to you when I get it right later. Again, I'm going to bookmark it mostly because, like, why not check it over if I have time? But, like, I don't think there's anything I really did wrong here. I feel like I just followed the instructions. The O-N formula keeps me organized. All right, I might need to hustle. In triangles, whatever, 27, okay. Oh, they don't do a lot of these congruent triangle things. So what do we know? Okay, basically, let's do it this way. We're going to do a dumb thing. So with congruent triangles, we always need a side. We always need a side. So giving me an angle isn't going to help. Giving me one side isn't going to help. I need sides of two things. And we don't have any sides. So it's got to be this. I'm going to think about this more if I have more time, but I'm pretty sure that's right. You need a side. Giving me one angle doesn't help. I've got all the angles. We're good there. A side in one triangle doesn't help. If I want to show them congruent, I need two something in both. BC and EF would do it, because then we'd have angle, side, angle, which is fine. Yeah. Okay. Oh, I've seen this question before or something similar. This is no solution. Okay. These are lines, so we're going to think of it as slopes. No solution equals same slope. So let's get some slopes. So 48x minus 72y is equal to 30y plus 24. So let's add that 72 over. Let's kill this because I don't care about that if it's a slope. So 48x is equal to 102y divided by 102 divided by 102. So the slope of this is whatever 48 over 102 reduces to. Okay. All right, we'll worry about the reducing later if we need it. The other equation is ry is equal to 1/6 minus 16x. Again, kill this, don't need it. I need slopes. So divide by r, which is the same as multiplying by 1 over r. So my slope here is negative 16 over r. So their same slope, 48 over 102, is equal to negative 16 over r. So 48r equals negative 16 times 102, negative 1632, divide by 48, and we get r is negative 34. Cool, and I can check this later also by typing in a Desmos and seeing if they're genuinely parallel. Easy. Now some of you might want to do that, knowing that you're not going to do well on some of these later questions. You might want to just do that now. Which of the following expression is a factor of x plus 2b, where b is a positive constant? Or is a positive integer constant. Which of the following expressions is a factor of x plus 2b? How would I do this? So 19, so if it's factored, x plus 2b, one of the others has to be 3x. So how would we get 14? That would be 7. Right, because I'll have 14b at the end. So 3x squared plus 7x plus 6bx plus 14b. Right? So what am I doing wrong? So if b were 1, that would be 13. I don't have that. If b were 2, that would be 12 plus 7 is 19. I don't have that. So basically, I got to just look at the middle number and see if I can get something minus 7. So 7 minus 7 is 0. That's not positive, and it's got to be positive. So 28 minus 7 is 21. But if we did 21 minus 6, so this has to equal, if we tried to make it 28, then equals 7x plus 6bx. So minus 7 is 21 equals 6b. You can't divide 21 by 6. Let's keep going. So C would be 42 is equal to 7 plus 6b. 42 minus 7 is 35. 35 not divisible by 6, so no. D, 49 equals 7 plus 6b. 42 is equal to 6b. 42 is divisible by 6. That's a tricky one. Yeah, you could probably do some Desmos things there, but I don't know. Perimeter of an equilateral triangle, 30, 60, 90s, I bet. Okay, 20. Perimeter of an equilateral triangle is 624. So 624 divided by 3. 624 divided by 3 is 208. 208, 208, 208. The height of the triangle is k root 3, where k is a constant. What's the value of k? Well, this is a 60-degree angle because it's equilateral. So this is 30, this is 90, and that means this 208 is the 2x side, meaning that x, which is down here, is 104, which makes sense because we're dividing it in half, and so 104 root 3 would be the thing. This is really easy. 104 root 3, and the root 3 is not part of this because they just want the k. So this is really easy. Just got to know that the 30, 60, 90s exist, and there they are. And, you know, equilateral triangles, always. Oh, this is a familiar question. Maybe they changed the numbers, but this is a repeat. Okay. 2 data sets of 23 integers. Each are summarized in the histogram's tone. For each of the histograms, the first interval represents the frequency of integers greater than or equal to 10, but less than 20, right? So that's this bucket. The second interval represents the frequency of integers greater than or equal to 20, but less than 30. Yeah. And so on. What is the smallest possible difference between the mean of data set A and the mean of data set B? Right. So the answer is 1, because if all of the things in this bucket right here are 20, and then we moved it down 1 unit and made them 19, then that whole box would shift over to here. And so that's a difference of 1. So even though they look like they're shifted 10, it depends where they are. If all of the values are on the border, then just shifting it 1 would shift the entire graph, but all the numbers would only shift 1. See, this is a good example where I have a huge advantage because I know the answer to this question. I know how it works. I mean, I would have solved it anyway in the moment the first time I saw it, but this is the kind of thing that if you've spoiled the practice test, you have a huge advantage on the hard math module, because this would normally take people a long time to figure out. It's hard for a lot of people. And if you know the trick, it's 2 seconds. And this one too. This one's got a big trap. I've seen this before. Okay. Table shows the results of a poll. A total of 803 voters selected at random were asked which candidate they would vote for in the upcoming election. According to the poll, if 6,424 people vote in the election, by how many votes would Angel Cruz be expected to win? Okay. So there's a couple ways to do this. We want to know how many he would be expected to win by. So in this example, Angel Cruz won by, or that's a minus, 320. So 483 minus 320 is 163. Now that's obviously a trap. There's no way that the last question is going to have that answer. We just subtract 2 numbers, right? You didn't even use half the information. So 163, though, is his margin of victory out of 803 people who were in the poll. But we need to set up a ratio because there's 6,424 people in the entire election. So we want to know what that margin would be out of that. So 163 or 803 x equals 163 times 6424. Just typed it. Is, oh my gosh, 1047112 divided by 803 is 1304. Okay. Yeah. So he wins by 1304. I mean, you could do a bunch of proportions. The way to check this would be to do a bunch of proportions and just make sure you get everyone's things right. So 483 out of 6 or 8 of 803 is how much out of 6424. Get that number, get the number for Terry, and then do the subtraction. But I don't want to do that. Let's do some other cool stuff. Let's go back to here and let's just pop that in the calculator. Do some sureness. F of x equals x plus 6, x plus 5, x minus 4. And we can do a little table. And we can do x is -6 and -5 and 4. And we can tell that that y1 is really going to be f of x minus 3. Oh, really? What if we did y1 equals f of x minus 3? Oop, minus 3. Is that going to work? y1? Why? Too many variables. Try defining x. Does that work? Well, I thought that would work, but it's okay. We're just going to do it like this. Someone feel free to comment if you've got a better method, but we can just do y equals f of x minus 3. Let it graph. Turn off the one we don't want. And we need -6. So x equals -6 is -3. Yep. -5 is -3. And 4 is -3. Done. Good. 11. Yeah. Some of the solutions here. Let me show you a different way to do this. If we wanted to do the algebra, we would get x squared plus x minus 56 is equal to 4x squared minus 28x. Subtract, 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 add. 0 equals 3x squared minus 29x plus 56, and the sum of the solutions is -b over a. That is -29 over 3, so that's 29 thirds, which I'm assuming is 9.667. Let's double check. 29 thirds, 9.666 forever. So let's just leave it at that. That's fine. But that's the answer, 29 thirds. You could put that in as well. This is the only one that's like breaking my brain a little bit. What would I do differently here? I mean, I feel like I already solved it. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what else I could do to check that, right? Because I'm getting the side is 338 tan. No, that's the area. It's 338 tan 33, right? So 1/2 base times height. I mean, my SOHCAHTOA is right. Tan 33 is opposite over adjacent, so 26 tan 33 is fine. 26 tan 33 times 26. I mean, I can just compare things. So, right, 1/2 base times height is 219. So 1/2 base times height is that. So that's 338 tan 33. Same number. Yeah, I've still bookmarked that, right? Like even after the check, I'm like, it's possible I did something wrong. This one's the same thing. Right, so the cost of the shirt is $1.80. So $1.80 times 1.3 is $2.34. Right, so that's supposed to be the sale price, and that's supposed to be 80% less. So 1170 times 0.2 is 234. So that seems fine. I'm good with that. 48x minus 72y equals 30y plus 24, and negative 34y equals 1/6 minus 16x. Yeah, I mean, they're clearly parallel. You can see, I mean, definitely not bending anywhere. So that's proven. And you can't really do a slider to get that originally because negative 34 is such a weird number. You'll be at it forever. Let's see if we can do this one. So which of the following has a factor of x plus 2b? Right? So the b doesn't matter. So can I do b equals 1 and then x plus 2b? So x plus 2b is a factor. And if I type, I don't even know what this is going to do, 3x squared plus 49x plus 14b. Right, so if x plus 2b is a factor, then that means negative 2b. So x equals negative 2b is a x-intercept. Oh crap, I could be wrong here. I don't know what I'm doing. 3x squared plus 49x plus 14b. X plus 2b. How would we get that? We would need 3x out front and 7. I don't know. This one's tough. I might have done something wrong here. I don't know what I'm supposed to do to check this, but I guess we'll find out in 2 seconds. So there you go. Not so bad. I honestly, I don't know. That math seemed, I've had math sections on the SAT where I am definitely working pretty close to the end. So I wonder if there's just, this is still a little bit on the easier side. Feel free to leave your comments about it, you know, and we'll see what it is. But certainly I think, at least in math, there was a lot of stuff where I could see a student knowing what to do, getting a little bit of an advantage if they took practice tests 1, 2, and 3. So yeah. So let's pause here. I'm going to log in and we'll share the score and see how it went. All right, here we go. The results, 1570. As always, I'm good for a reading error every once in a while. Math, no real issues. But notice that reading, right? I know it's small, but it says incorrect answers, 1. One incorrect answer knocked me down 30 points. Now, we don't have a ton of data on every single possible combination on the other practice tests for like what each question is worth, but generally speaking, 30 points is on the higher end. Most are really going to be worth about 10, and occasionally you'll lose 20 for a question. It's not like the question is worth 20, the question is worth 10. It has to do with things that have yet to be explained by the College Board about how this scoring system works. But please, I'm curious if other people got one wrong on this test. Did you also lose 30 points, or was it less than that, more? 30 is really high, and it's usually a sign that the practice test is not great. So this is something that happened on the test that they discontinued, tests 1, 2, and 3. It's usually a sign that the test is a little too easy. So how do they deal with that? Is then the scoring curve is more harsh. You lose more points for your wrong answers because so many of the questions are generally easier. So, you know, that just is a reminder. I've talked about this in videos before, like people worry, oh, I'm not going to take the May SAT because it's a harder test. I'm not going to take the October SAT because that's when all the seniors are taking it and that's going to hurt the score. The SAT does not work like that. That's not how it goes. If the test is easier, the curve is going to be more harsh. So you think you want an easy test, but you really don't. And even still, the difference is, in this case, like 10 more points than I would have expected, right? It's not really that big of a difference. But it does go to show that I think if you are aiming for the top scores, easier tests are worse for you, because then when you do make a mistake, it's going to cost you more. So I don't know. We'll have to get some more information about this practice test 8. I'm going to have my students take it. Many of you will take it, and we will get scores. We can talk about that and kind of see how this curve breaks down. But I will say that one wrong and 30 points, that's on the higher end of things. That's kind of interesting. Now going to here, right? Nothing nothing shows up because if you get something wrong, it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to lose a point here, or a box, I should say. So these things stop being useful when you're near the higher end of things. But going to the score report itself, where is that one incorrect answer? And of course, it's in the hard reading module. It's where I always make some sort of mistake because of time. And you probably could have seen this coming as I was taking the test. It was this guy about the flies. I just didn't understand what was going on at all. My brain was fried, and the idea that I had to learn DPTA, DPTB, Drosophila, Providencia retgeri, Acetobacter sicari. What is this? So usually when you do these science passages, just ignore all the names of things. You can it doesn't matter. It's not really important. But in this case, it kind of was, because they are saying that in conjunction with the observation that resistance to retgeri correlates with DPT activity, but is not significantly affected by DPTB, right? So one of the things they infected them with is correlate with DPTA, meaning whatever DPTA does, it's important, right, for that retgeri. But now we're doing data in the graph of the survival rates of this other thing, this A. sicari, however you say that, right? So now we're talking about a different thing. So we're not interested necessarily in this here. So they're being infected with the sicari thing. So what's happening here? Well, when we infect it with the sicari, the type A flies live, the type B and AB flies die. So the B seems to be important because the B is determining what's happening. The key is, I didn't quite understand this, but the DPTB flies have something silenced. So the fact that they're all dying when we silence the gene tells us that DPTB, or the B flies, that gene is important for this infection. So that's why C is the answer. DPTB may have developed as a specific defense against this, right? So when we silence it, when we turn off the B gene, we die from the sicari, right? Whereas the A flies, who still have the B gene alive, that's not silenced, it's active, they're surviving this infection. So even though they're called type A flies, what's really happening with a type A fly is we're testing whether the B is still there. It's backwards, and it's backwards in a way that's on purpose to be a hard question. Like, that's how it goes. But that is interesting. I didn't even consider that when I was doing it. I think honestly, I was done. I was mentally done. And that's a thing that is a real factor on the test, right? Like, you're going to have to make choices. You're going to have sacrifices, things where you're like, it's just, this question is not for me. It's unfortunate that question resulted in a 30-point drop, but this is why we're not really trying for an 800. And if that's in your head, you've got to make some changes, right? I mean, any college would be very happy with this score. If I were a high school junior and I got a 1570 in the SAT, I would be jumping up and down, screaming, happy, because I will never have to take the SAT again. There's no difference between this and a 1600 in anyone's mind. No one cares about the 1600. So you got to be very happy with that. And I would say there are a couple other I bookmarked and things like that. There were definitely some harder questions. So I'm curious what happens if we get 2 wrong, 3 wrong. It would really be unfortunate if 3 wrong takes you down to, a 1510, because, if it is 30 points a question, that's very unusual. So we'll see what happens as we get more information about this practice test, how accurate it is. But I'm skeptical already. But let's see. Let's not jump to conclusions. If you have any questions about this, please ask. If you have some insight into the scoring and the breakdown for you, I'm curious as well. Feel free to put that in the comments. And I will have videos for all of these questions as individuals. Many of them I already have. So they're gonna be available as soon as I can organize them. But yeah, there were some new ones in here. So there were some surprises. Thank you so much for watching. I hope this helped you understand how we think about the test. And I hope it also encourages you that, at least in reading, you can go back to old questions you've already solved and solve them again, and you're not going to remember the answers. So you've got that going for you as well. But if you have any questions, let me know. Thanks again for watching. I'm Mike Settele. And remember, when it comes to your scores, don't settle for less, Settele for more.